Do you remember when you had just gotten out of college, or maybe you'd just gotten out of high school? There are all these decisions that you had to make. I'm talking about, like, where am I going to work? Where am I going to live? All these kind of things. And it hasn't stopped. I know for me, I'll soon be 60 years old, and every day there are decisions that we have to make. But when you were young, you make some decisions that will have an impact on the rest of your life's trajectory. And sometimes those decisions can be tough. I have with me today someone who has recently made a huge decision, a decision about where they're going to live, at least for the next year, and a decision about what they'll be doing for the next year. And it's not your everyday decision. Today I have with me Amanda Johnson. And Amanda, you recently made the decision to leave Nashville area, Mount Jewett, and you're moving to Croatia.
Yes.
Wow. Hey, that's a big jump. Okay. For those people who don't know it, Croatia is not like near here. Okay. And people be like moving a long, far away from all of us. And matter of fact, there's probably a lot of people now going, hey, Google Croatia. Where's that at on the maps? By chance, do you know how many miles away from home that will be?
I don't have an estimated idea. I haven't looked into that.
Okay, well, that's going to be something that whoever's watching this video, at least one of you guys or gals, would y'all figure that out for us and put it in the comment section so that you'll know? Amanda, thank you for being here with us on this Not So Crazy Talk conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, you are so welcome. Could you just how did you get to this point? What led you to make this decision?
Sure. Yeah. So I grew up as a missionary kid.
Okay.
I was 4 years old when we left the States. I was born here in Nashville in Tennessee, and I left here at the age of 4 and returned at the age of 18. So my whole life was really spent overseas and really developed a really big passion in me for ministry and work that happens in the church overseas. Mm-hmm. So I always kind of knew, even going through college, that going back was something I really wanted to do. But nothing ever really felt right. And I wanted to get through college. So I was here for 4 years, and I studied English in college. And when I graduated, I thought, man, immediately the doors are going to open. Immediately there's going to be some opportunity for me to go overseas.
Right.
And that did not happen. Yeah. I definitely looked into it. I contacted some people that I knew, but nothing felt right. And there just didn't seem to be the kind of opportunities I was looking for available. Right. So I started working here, working full time. And I've been doing that for the past 2 years. Mm-hmm. And it really was when COVID started and everything was slowed down, and I had to start working from home, and I had a little bit more free time to start thinking, okay, what direction am I wanting my life to go in? It seemed like kind of a pivotal moment of okay, I have limited amount of time. So what do I want to do with that time? Mm-hmm. And I kind of had a moment where I just was very vulnerable and open before God, saying hey, I want to go overseas. That this is on my heart, but I don't know how to make it happen. I've tried to make it happen, but it hasn't. So you have to take care of it. And 2 days later, I got an email asking me if I wanted to go to Croatia. Wow. So it has been, it actually happened really quickly. I got an email in June, and by July, I had made a decision to go. I had met with people there, and so it all happened very quickly, and it kind of took me a minute to kind of digest the fact that I had been wanting to do this for so long, and then suddenly an opportunity had appeared, and everybody was really excited, and we're like, yeah, we want you to come, we want you to work with us. And now that's what I'm doing. So very, very exciting. And the decision happened really, really quickly.
Oh, that is cool. Yeah. You say it happened quickly. It did happen quickly, that decision. But as I was listening to you talk, one of the things you and I had discussed was for people who may be in the process of making a decision, there were some elements in your conversation just that I want to mention, and that is that it did not happen. God had been dealing with you. He had put that passion in your heart. You said, man, it's something in my mind. It's always been going on. And it did not happen right then. Sometimes, God will call us to do something, and it may take a little time, but when it's time, well, it happens, right?
Yeah. Very true.
Happen quickly. So we'll circle back to that in a minute, because there was a lot of power in what you just said on the situations about, hey, God, you make it happen. So, and I was writing down notes if you saw me look away. So, all right, so you're going to Croatia, and that was something. What did you have a list of places that you could choose from, or was this they contacted you and said, hey, this is where we want you to go?
So I attended a Explore event held by the Church of the Nazarene in February, right before everything happened.
Okay.
And I expressed to them that I really felt like Europe was where I needed to go. I needed to do something in Europe. And an Explore event is really just an opportunity for people who feel called to missions to be able to explore that a little bit and learn more about what that looks like through the Church of the Nazarene. And if you are wanting to be a missionary through the Church of the Nazarene, you have to attend one of those.
Okay.
So going there, they ask you a lot of questions about like what kind of service you think you want to do. And I had told them that I really felt like I wanted to do stories. I wanted to tell stories, and I wanted to do something with that. And I told them I felt like Europe was really where I needed to be, but if something else opened up and God was really working and showing, that I wasn't closed off to that. So I just kind of left it at that point, and I thought, you know what, if something comes available in like South America or somewhere in Africa or Asia, and I feel like it's where God's leading, like I'm not going to say no, I only feel like I need to go to Europe.
Right.
But Croatia hadn't really crossed my mind as a specific country. I don't know a lot about Croatia. I know more now, but I didn't then. And I just was kind of just open to anything. And so when they sent me Croatia, and actually one of the people that contacted me is a friend of mine that I went to college with. Her parents actually are missionaries in Eurasia, and they had suggested Croatia, and I got to meet with the missionaries that are currently there, and it just felt right, and it really just fell into place. So
that's excellent. So all right, here's all this. When you leave in January, is that correct?
Yes, if borders are open, if everything's good to go, I'll be up in January. All
right, and so when you get to Croatia, and I know we don't want to give too much information, maybe because we don't want somebody like stalking you to Croatia or whatever.
Right.
Like you'll be staying and working in kind of like what capacity? We don't need an address, but how does that work? I mean, do you stay with other people, with missionaries, and even more so, what do you know what your ministry will be, how that will unfold?
So I will be in the capital city of Zagreb, and I'll be working with the local church there and the work that the missionaries already have going, specifically with the refugee population coming into Croatia. I'll be helping teach English and just getting to know them and building relationships, as well as getting to know local Croatians and building relationships with them. And I'll also be sharing stories from refugees and from the local congregation there. Part of what my, job description was when I got accepted to this is to be able to work in Croatia, but then also on the Central Europe field in a larger capacity of traveling and telling stories and meeting with people and kind of sharing the work that God's doing across Central Europe. But with COVID, things are a little bit trickier. So that might not involve as much traveling, maybe more Skype calling or Zoom. So it'll be kind of teaching, building relationships, and then also telling stories. So I'm very excited about all of that and getting to be in that community.
That's right right up your alley. You
Yeah.
know, and God, yeah, man. So that will be wonderful. We'll look forward maybe that at some point, you know, you can come back on Not So Crazy Talk and you can tell us what God is doing. Tell us some of the stories of what's taking place in Croatia and in the surrounding areas, what's going on there. So, all right, obviously this has been a quick decision. Obviously, I know you. I know that this isn't being bankrolled by some rich uncle that sells fireworks or something like that. But how can people support you? If, I know there's people. What can we do to support Amanda?
Yeah. So I always tell people the two main things I need are prayer and finances. Prayer specifically because that can do so much, and finances can only do one thing.
Right.
And so prayer definitely is so important. If someone would like to donate financially, I will be in charge of paying for all of my rent, all of my transportation, all of my groceries, and I won't be receiving any salary or anything while I'm over there because I'm going as a volunteer. So I do have a link that I can send to you where people can donate if they want, or I can give you an address if people would like to mail a check or something like that. But yes, donations and prayer are the two biggest things that I need.
That makes sense. What I will do is we'll post at the end of this video information of where people can send a check, and then I'll post maybe the link also so that people can support you and sign up to support you in that way. Amanda, one of the things about your decision we talked briefly about is how that other people, I mean, everybody is faced with decisions, some larger than others. And with COVID and with all that's going on in the world, there's all kinds of people facing decisions they have to make. And I think about a lot of people who are taking care of family, people who are dealing with loss, people who are dealing with job changes. And, you know, when you're at this age, that's one thing. And this age, there's just so much that's going on. But there's some elements that came out as you were talking about your decision to go to Croatia. What information to people who are like, man, there's a decision that's facing them, that's challenging them. Do you have anything that you would say, hey, this is what I learned from my experience, maybe it could help you?
Yeah. It definitely has been an interesting decision-making process because I feel like I've never made a decision like this before. This has been a whole new territory for me.
Yeah.
It's very easy for me to want to be in control of my decisions. I think that's a very human thing because, you know, it's my life. I'm going to make this decision about it. But I think this decision in particular really taught me more about reliance on God, because the place where I was at when I really cried out and said, God, I don't know what I'm doing, like, you know, and was just very open. That was the moment where I realized, like, I can't do it anymore on my own. Like, even if it wasn't Croatia or moving overseas, like I kind of feel like I hit a moment where I was like, I've been trying to do everything on my own for too long, and I just can't do that. So I guess a big thing that I've tried to do since then is just be very honest with God. And it's funny because there's a part of me that thinks like, well, God's God, so he already knows. But I think there's a difference in being like, well, yeah, God knows, but then saying, but I want God to know, and I want God to be involved in this. Wow. And just being very open and just being honest. And I think when we, you know, even before we come to that place, God is very gracious and merciful. But I think there's a specialness in that moment where your relationship with God has the opportunity to go deeper because you are putting forth something. Like, God's always putting forth love and grace and mercy to you, but in that moment you're reciprocating with that open vulnerability that just makes any relationship deeper. So I would just encourage people, that's hard to do, but I would encourage people to try to be more open and more honest with God, and to realize that God does want to hear from you, and that it's not just He knows what's going on. He's taking care of it. You don't need to interact. But he really does want to know. He wants to be there with you every step of the way. And I think also knowing that you're not going into it alone, knowing that you've been open with God and knowing that, he is walking right there with you. And you've invited him in, and it's not like, God, why are you here? But it's God here, like,
what are you doing here? Yeah.
Right.
I'm God. I'm supposed to be here.
Right, exactly. And I think that acknowledgement of this is the way the relationship, needs to progress, needs to go. So I guess just to be open and honest and to realize that your decision making is going to be so much easier when there's God brought into it.
Amen. And that total vulnerability that you spoke of, and that total surrender. So if there any of you out there are facing, making a huge decision, or the things you're dealing with, what Amanda just said is something to take in. And it could be those of you who are trying to parent, those of you who are trying to live the single life, and those of you who are facing career choices, all of these things, not just being called to the mission field, but that vulnerability to saying to God, God, I can't do this. I need your help. That's so important, man. And thank you. I appreciate that wisdom you share with us. I read a quote the other day. Matt Hastings had posted a Karen Dean Fry quote. It's kind of like one of those, like, so-and-so told me so-and-so. But it said that we are God's money. He can spend us however and wherever he wants. And I think of that, when we surrender ourselves to God, man, if he wants to spend you in Croatia, or wants to spend somebody, across the block or around the neighborhood. Yeah. So thank you, Amanda, for being vulnerable to God and being available to do what he wants you to do. I also thank you for being vulnerable enough to come on here and share with us what God is doing in your life and where you're headed. Again, for those of you who are watching this, comments, words of encouragement to Amanda, awesome. We'd love to hear those.
Yeah.
Somebody tell us how many miles it is from Nashville to Croatia. The other thing is that I will post information on how you can support Amanda through prayer and through your donations, and encourage you to do so. Thank you, Amanda, for your time today. Thank y'all for taking time to watch this Not So Crazy Talk conversation. Keep on keeping on. Pray one for another, and may God be with you all. Until next time.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.